So in this video we are going to look at how SQL Server reads and writes data to the database. So let's get started. SQL Server uses buffer memory for reading and writing data from the hard drive. Basically, what is buffer memory? The concept of buffer memory is actually is the buffer memory is a temporary memory in a RAM. Buffer memory is a part of the RAM, random access memory, that is set aside to temporarily hold the read and write data while it is being manipulated or something else. So first thing, buffer memory is used by SQL Server. So now let's suppose we have a query. This is SQL Server and we have a query, select name from customer table. Now, and this is our RAM, and let's put this is a portion of a RAM that is considered as buffer memory. So let's put this is our queue, and this is our actual hard drive in which our we have a database. So this is our database. So what a SQL Server does, it looks for this data in the buffer memory, as buffer memories in a SQL Server case holds pages, and if the particular data is found in these pages present in the buffer memory, then well and good. These pages are returned, the data from is being processed from these pages and returned back. But let's assume we don't have the data in the buffer memory in this case. Now then what's happened, the SQL Server is referred back to the hard drive, and those particular pages are loaded back to the buffer memory, and then they are accessed to the client application. So this is how read is done in SQL Server. Now let's examine the write, how SQL Server writes the data to the actual database. So initially it is just similar to the read operation, but after initial stage it gets little different. So again I'm going to repeat these things here, draw these things here again. So this is our RAM, this is our buffer memory, sorry for the spell. So this is a hard drive, and in which this is our actual database is stored, just logical representation. So now let's suppose we want to update customer table where set name is equal to Ali, where ID is equal to 2. So when we execute this query, what SQL Server does, it goes to the buffer memory and check for the data that we want to update. If this data is present in this page, well and good, it is going to modify that. But let's assume it is not present in this page, it gets to the hard drive, and the page is loaded back into the buffer memory. And now what SQL Server does, manipulate and update the data in the buffer memory, and then return back an entry to the log file. So we have two things in our database, LDF, which is log file, and MDF, which is actual data. So the entry of the update is being updated to the LDF file in this case. Now note that the data is not actually written back to the MDF actually hard drive, but it is being updated page, modified page is present in the buffer memory. So what SQL Server does is it just label this page as a dirty page, and it remains there till we don't till we need to free up the buffer memory. Now let's suppose we need to free up buffer memory for some other operations. So now we have to do something for that page to get back to the hard drive or actual database. So here comes in game another thing which is called as lazy writer. So lazy writer is responsible for freeing up the buffer memory and loading the page into the actual database or hard drive. So before freeing up the buffer memory, lazy writer updates that page to the LDF file and mark this as non-dirty page. Means now it can be freed up. Another thing comes here which is called as checkpoint. Checkpoint is basically a concept which makes sure that the dirty pages write frequently into the databases. Let's suppose we have a large amount of buffer memory, we have a large amount of RAM, and we have a huge amount of buffer memory. Then we have to wait for the buffer memory to be filled up, and the lazy writer to go for the page to free up the buffer memory and loading the page in updated pages or data into the actual database or hard drive. So we have to wait for that. So checkpoint just make sure that the dirty pages get into the databases in a timely manner. So that's the concept of read and write in SQL server. Hope so you got it. Thank you.